Welcome to another types of variation called the inverse variation. In this lesson, I'll be walking you through how to calculate problem dealing with inverse variation. What is an inverse variation? A variation is said to be inverse if an increase in one quantity leads to a decrease in another quantity, or vice versa. For an instance, we're given quantity A and quantity B. If quantity A increases, that means quantity B will decrease. And if quantity A decreases, it simply means that quantity B will be increasing. This is the inverse variation. So question on inverse variation might come in this form, whereby you have A is inversely proportional to B, or it can be in this form, A varies inversely as B. So when you see this statement is inversely proportional or varies inversely, you definitely know that that variation is an inverse variation. So let's try to represent inverse variation mathematically. Given two quantities A and B, if A varies as B, then we can say mathematically that A is inversely proportional to B. So the inverse proportion means that we have 1 all over that quantity. The inverse there is the 1 all over that quantity. And then we can rewrite this as A equals to K times 1 over B, where K is a constant and the A and B are quantities. If you look at this very right now, we can say K times 1 to give us K at the numerator side over B, and then we have A equals to K over B. So this formula is our connecting formula. This is the formula that we use for solving our problem. So from here we can cross multiply for us to make K the subject of the formula. If we cross multiply A times B and then K times 1. So if you do like this, A all over 1, you can see 1 times K, that will be K. A times B, that will be AB. So we have K equals to AB. Now it's the time to look at example 1 under inverse variation. If S varies inversely as Y and Y equals to 5 when S equals to 0, find the equation connecting Y and S. Hence, find the value of Y when S equals to 2 and S when Y equals to 1 divided by 4. In this question now, we need to interpret this statement S varies inversely as Y. When they say varies inversely, that means that particular type of variation is an inverse variation. So to write that down mathematically, we have S varies inversely as Y. That means we'll say S, then we use the proportional symbol and say 1 over Y. The next thing will now be, we have S equals to K all over Y, where K is a constant. From this formula now, this is our connecting formula, or the equation connecting Y and S together. So from this formula now, we can make K the subject of the formula. When we make K the subject of the formula, we'll have K equals to SY. Remember, you can say S all over 1, and then when you cross multiply, have K equals to SY there. Then the next thing to do now, we are given the value Y equals to 5 when S equals to 10. So we are given Y is 5 and S equals 10. So we're going to fix in these two values into this K equals to SY in order for us to get the value of K. So we have K equals to 10 times 5. So 10 times 5 will give 50. So our K equals to 50. The next thing to do now is to fix in, put the value of this K equals to 50 into this formula. We have S equals to K all over Y. Our connecting equation, S equals to 50 divided by Y. This is our connecting equation. We've been able to find the connecting equation between S and Y. So the next thing now Hence, find the value of y when s equals to 2. So we are given the value of s to be 2, but we don't know the y. So we are asked to look for the y. So we are going to fix in these values into this connecting equation. Then we have 2 equals to 50 divided by y. So these two now we can say 2 all over 1, because 2 all over 1 is the same thing as 2. So the reason why we're doing that, we want to cross multiply. So when we cross multiply, we have 1 is multiplying the 50 and 2 is multiplying the y. So we have y times 2, that will give 2y, and then 1 times 50, that will give 50. The next thing to do now is to divide both sides by the coefficient of y, and that coefficient is this 2. When we divide both sides by the coefficient of y, which is 2, the 2 at the left hand side will go out, will be cancelled out, and then it will remain only y at the left hand side. Then at the right hand side we'll have 50 divided by 2. So 50 divided by 2 will give 25. So our y equals 25. We've been able to determine the value of y equals 25. Then the next one now, we're also asked to find the value of x when y equals to 1 over 4. So we are given the value of y to be 1 over 4, but we don't know the s. We are asked to determine that. So let's fix in this value of y equals to 1 over 4 into this connecting equation. And then we have s equals to 50 divided by 1 over 4. We have s equals to, so what we want to do here, we want to change this line to the other sign of divide. So we have 50 divided by 1 over 4. The reason why we're doing that, we want to change this divide to times. And when we change this divide to times, this 4 at the denominator side will go up, and the 1 at the numerator side will come down. So we now have s equals to 50 multiplied by 4 over 1. You get the idea now. So we can say 50 over 1. 50 over 1 is the same thing as 50. So if we multiply the numerator side, we have 50 times 4, that will give us 200. And the denominator side, 1 times 1, that is 1. So 200 divided by 1 is the same thing as 200. So our s equals 200. Example 2. If y varies inversely as square of x and y equals 8 when s equals 2, find the equation connecting y and s. Hence, find the value of y when s equals to 6 and s when y equals to half. So let's try to interpret this statement. Y varies inversely as square of x. So varies inversely means that this question is an inverse variation. So what we need to do there is to write down that mathematically we have y varies inversely as 1 over s squared. This simply means y varies inversely as s squared. So we now have y equals to k all over s squared. This particular formula now is the formula that we use for determining our connecting formula. So this is the connecting equation. All we need to do is to work out the value of k, so that we're fixing the value of k into this connecting equation. This k is a constant. The next thing will now be, we have k equals to ys squared. We make k the subject of the formula there. That's where we have k equals to ys squared. Now to determine the value of k, we've been given y to be 8 and s to be 2. So we are going to fix in this value into this equation of k equals to ys squared, and then we have k equals to 8 times 2 square. 2 square means 2 times 2, that is 4. 8 times 4, that gives 32. So our k is 32. Having gotten k to be 32 now, the next thing now is for us to get our connecting equation. Our connecting equation will be for us to just fix in the value of our k into this equation, y equals to k all over s squared. If we fix in the value of k, we'll have y equals to 32 over x squared. So this is our connecting equation between y and x. The next thing we are asked to do is to hence find the value of y when s equals to 6. So to do that, we are given s equals to 6 and we are asked to determine y. So let's fix in this value into this connecting equation, and then we have y equals to 32 divided by 6 square. 6 square means 6 times 6, and that is 36. That means our y equals to 32 divided by 36. So what can go in 32 and also go in 36? So 4 can go. 4 in 32, that's 8. 4 in 36, that's 9. So our y equals to 8 over 9. So we've been able to obtain the value of y to be 8 over 9. We're asked to find the value of s when y equals half. So to do that, we are given the value of y to be half and to determine s. So let's fix in the value of this y into this connecting equation, and then we have half equals to 32 over s squared. So let's cross multiply. So we have s squared times 1, that will give s squared. Then 2 times 32, that will give 64. So we now have s squared equals to 64. So our s now equals to the square root of 64. So what is the square root of 64? What same number will you multiply together to give you the square root of 64? That is 8. 8 times 8 will give you 64. So the square root of 64 is 8. S equals to 8. So the connecting formula is y equals to 32 over s squared. We also determine the value of y here to be 8 over 9, and then we determine the value of s equals to 8. Example 3. The electrical resistance of a wire varies inversely as the square of the radius. If the resistance is 0.24 ohms when the radius is 0.5 centimeter, find the resistance when the radius is 0.04 centimeter. So in this question now, the very first thing is to look at the statement. The electrical resistance of a wire varies inversely as the square of the radius. So this varies inversely signifies that this question is based on inverse variation. So the first thing we now do is to let the electrical resistance be E and the radius be R. So we are assuming the resistance is E and the radius is R. So that means to do that mathematically now, we'll have E is inversely proportional to R square. You get the idea? Okay, the next thing will now be our E equals to K all over R square. From here now, this is our connecting formula. We use this to determine our connecting formula. So after getting the value of K, we just fix in the value of K into this formula to get our connecting formula. And through the connecting formula, we've been able to solve the question that are related to it. So the next thing will be for us to make K the subject of the formula here, and then we have K equals to ER square. You remember we can say E all over 1, and then when you cross multiply, that's where we have the value K equals to ER square from. After this now, you fix in the value of E and the R to get the constant K. The value of E here, if the resistance is 0.24 ohms, you remember that we represent the resistance to be E. So that means our E is 0.24 ohms, and then we are given the radius to be 0.5 centimeter. So let's fix in the value now. We have K equals to 0.24 times 0.5 square. Let's use our calculator to work this out. 0.24 multiplied by 0.5 square equals to enter. That gives 0.06. So we have our K to be 0.06. So the next thing to do is for us to fix in the value of this K into this connecting formula. So our connecting formula will now be E equals to 0.06 divided by R squared. So this is our connecting formula that we use to calculate the question that are next. So we are asked to find the resistance when the radius is 0.04 centimeter. So we are given the radius and then we are asked to determine the electrical resistance. We're just fixing the value of this R into this connecting equation, and then we have E equals to 0.06 divided by 0.04 square. So let's use calculator to do that. 0.06 divided by 0.04, then square that, then press equals to, that gives us 37.5. So our E, which is the electrical resistance, is 37.5.